You know how we love a challenge. When I arrived at this particular site, I saw a huge challenge. So we have many factors here that we had to contend with. We've got quite a strict estate guideline and quite a strict homeowners association. We have a triangular site. We have got neighbours which are quite close, to us. And when I saw this site and we walked there, I was like, yo, this one is going to require some proper attention in order to pull this off. Because of the triangulation of the site, it starts very wide at the road, which is quite nice. But then what it does is it starts compressing as you go in the northern direction, which kind of starts compressing your entertainment area. So we had to be very careful about how we design the house so that it doesn't feel squashed in the front, and actually pull it so that it actually extends into the landscape at that point, rather than make it feel like we are compressing you into that corner. The difficulty with these estate guidelines is also some of the homeowners association. They are very strict with some of these things, and as I understand, they are trying to enforce certain rules and regulations, but it becomes very tricky for us to execute something proper and actually do something different without falling into the trap that everybody falls into when they get there, because the guidelines are so strict that every home starts looking the same because you are so restricted from actually executing your thoughts. This particular client actually wanted 6 garages, which is quite extreme for a home. I think nowadays it's becoming more and more of the norm because, with extended families and also children living at home and also having cars, one has a greater requirement for vehicles. So by actually doing 6 vehicles on here, that was a challenge. And because the site is actually quite wide as you enter, it actually gave us the opportunity to do something there that was a little bit different, and not just 6 garages in one line, which makes it look like a parking garage. So we managed to pull that off using the shape of the site in this particular one. And then once we went into the house, our focus was mainly how do we pull you through the house so that movement through the home feels natural and not forced into the front portion of that particular stand. So my thinking at the time that I was there is how do we move people through the home? So what we were thinking of doing is actually doing our family room and entertainment spaces, so that's the natural point where one would automatically move towards, and then how do you make that journey from the entrance to that point exciting, and then from there, how do we make you live out so that you can entertain in ease in that section? Some of the ideas that at the time that I was there is that we focused the staircase mid-design. So rather do the staircase in the center of the home rather than doing it as you enter, so that because the staircase is always a beautiful feature. It's beautiful, it's sculptural. We love to do curved elements in there just because it becomes a dynamic element in itself. So it becomes like a central sculpture that kind of starts holding some of the puzzle pieces together. And by doing that in the middle, it also helps us when we're circulating within the home, because if the staircase is right in the entrance and we've got a very elongated design as we are necessitated by the site in this position, your circulation becomes restricted because you have to move long distances to get to the staircase, which is your vertical circulation element. So by moving that staircase more centrally, it then facilitates that movement within the center of that linear configuration, and you are less aware of the distances that you walk because of that central space. I knew that the staircase had to be central, to this particular design. And then what I wanted to create is just that all the spaces live together in that front portion. So rather than making the spaces individual, which would then make them feel quite narrow and restricted, we planned that entire section. So your family room, your kitchen and your dining room actually form almost a triangular element with your covered patio together with that. So those 4 elements there actually give you quite a lot of width there. So the home doesn't feel like it's tapering into a corner there. It actually, instead of tapering to a corner, it actually feels like it widens up. So by widening it up there, you're not aware that the site is being restricted, but your home is not being restricted. This section and how we place the garages and how we manage the entrance, because the 2 garages are actually at 90 degrees to each other, it almost channels you to that center section, which we've pulled up as a double volume, which is your entrance. But if you want to see the real video to this, we are in construction and we'll do a follow-up for you to show you what this is going to look like. So if you don't want to miss out, hit subscribe and we'll see you at that video. Because these, the garages almost tunnel you towards that central entrance hall that we've created. We've created a double volume entrance there, but from the entrance, we've actually extended a section of slab back over the front of the garages. So it actually forms this concrete slab that has perforated elements in it, so it actually lets light through on that front of the garages there. So the one garage on the left appears completely different to the garages that are on the right hand side because of this shading element that we've brought in there. So it kind of gives you partial cover in that section, and then as it leads you then towards that front entrance, the entrance hall goes into a double volume section. When I was standing on site, I realized obviously the neighbors are very close here, and how do we screen them? Because the site is actually getting narrower and narrower. So effectively, you're partially facing the neighbor, and he's getting closer and closer to you as you go further down the site. So what we actually did in our entertainment area and on the patio, we introduced a long linear waterfall that actually falls off of the side of the covered patio, and that water feature actually screens your neighbor. So the waterfall is there. You will have permeated views through that waterfall towards the neighbor, which we cannot get away from, but we don't want to close that area up. So it's closed but open but still screened, you know. So just playing with ideas rather than just putting a fixed screen in there, which would have made it really feel enclosed on that patio. We're using features like this that just hopefully enhance that space. With the site being restricted to the front, we actually utilize the garages to put bedrooms and things over. So actually, when you look at the home from the front, it's actually quite wide, because you've got the section that comes towards the front, which is your covered patio and your family room. So over that section, we've put your main bedroom, a second bedroom, and then a third bedroom, which is behind that, and the fourth bedroom, which we've put over the top of the garage. So the facade actually looks quite wide. So you never get the feeling that the home is being compressed into that section. However, we by doing it in the way that we've done, we've opened up the views, we've opened visibility, we've created north, we've opened it up for entertainment. So I think from that flow point of view, it is quite a successful design. We were fortunate that the north in this case was not directly to the front. So the north is slightly off to the angle by about 30 degrees. It opens up the opportunity for windows that are not facing directly towards the front to still get a direct northern light into that section. What we did manage to achieve with this is all of the bedrooms upstairs are north facing, and we've put the gym in a position where it has a beautiful view. So if you are training, then you can make use of that view completely. We love to play with clear story, so what we did on the bottom level is we actually raised up the slab level, and then we actually took the windows all the way to the bottom of the slab, so you really get quite big windows and voluminous effect and a lot of light coming into that bottom section. And then on the first floor, once again, we've popped up the roofs and we've raised up the roofs and ceilings within that space so that you get the higher roof and volumes inside of your main bedroom and also in some of the other bedrooms. Sometimes by following the line of the built environments, call it your windows, walls, sliding doors, chimneys and stuff like that, the facade becomes very complicated. And by taking the concrete beam and actually just straightening out that line complete, so it actually forms recesses underneath the concrete beam, at the end of the day, you kind of simplify and just tone down that complexity of that facade. So in this particular case, we actually cut slotted sections into the slab so that we get light coming through that section as well. So on site, we may actually decide to even put a skylight over that section, because what it does then, it extends your covered patio section. Although covered patios on the first floor, it's not that important, but sometimes it's nice just to keep the water slightly further away from your windows. Sometimes there's a toss-up between creating a solid slab over that section, which adds quite a lot of weight, and then how do we minimize the weight in that section so that we don't need additional columns and things in that space. And then what we do is we would cut the holes into that slab to create that perforation or a void within the slab that it gives us an aesthetic feature, but the positive of that is that it reduces the weight over that section. So we have a win-win in that case. This particular home is about 500 square meters in size. So we've got 6 garages, 4 bedrooms, a gym, plus your family dining kitchen and guest bedroom at the bottom. So quite a bit of accommodation that we've managed to put into this design. In order to build a home like this, you can budget anything from 7.5 million up to probably 10 to 12 million, depending on finishes, home automation, air conditioning, and all of the bells and whistles. So if you want to see the live reveal of this home, like and subscribe, and we'll take you through that one.